Welcome to the on wax.
G'day everybody and welcome to episode 11 of Rainbows on Wax. My name is Alex.
And I'm Steve.
We're here to talk about rainy day music.
Yes, the weather.
Well, it's funny because it's been raining so much on the Sunshine Coast, but actually outside right now it is sunny, finally.
I did check the weather this morning, and because I got a date on Saturday, I was like, fuck, I hope the sun comes out.
Wait, so it's an outdoor date?
It's maybe, we'll see. But
I think it's safe. I think Saturday's going to be safe enough.
it's supposed to clear up. We've had 6 months of rain here on the Sunshine Coast. We've had 4 years of rain here on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, it's been on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
My God, yeah. Everyone's been fuming about the rain.
Yeah.
That's why we thought we'd theme it around rainy day music, rainy day songwriting, rainy day production. Let's start with like, what do we listen to on a rainy day? What's your rainy day playlist? Like, list off a couple of heavy hitters.
Okay, well,
Give us some advice, you know?
I like my jazz on rainy days. Or
Yep.
like, the sample-based hip-hop stuff. Or
Yep.
bit of Miles Davis, bit of Grant Green, bit of Dirty Art Club.
Oh, yeah.
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 Thanks to you for that one.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
There's definitely some rainy day music, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Just that warm, cozy,
Yeah.
easy listening
Yep.
kind of vibe, right?
Get a cup of tea.
Yeah.
You know, there's there's no expectation
No.
on getting out and doing anything. I mean, what's your options? Go to the shop? Like,
Go to the
that's it?
plaza.
Go to the plaza?
Spend money on online.
Yeah. It's realistically like you're going to be pretty much inside unless you're working or at your job or whatever. And, all credit to you if that's what you've got to do. But, it's those rainy days, those weekends that, you had plans, you can't do anything. I always think, unless you're going to sit down and watch Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, one of your favorite movies, it's great to put on a playlist. And like, people out there, if you want to just rely on Spotify and like search up rainy day playlist and, just be subservient to the Spotify gods, that's fine.
It's kind of like those study playlists on YouTube. Like there's lo-fi hip hop channels, and there's a lot of money in that. If you're producing that stuff, like everyone I know listens to that.
Yeah.
No matter if you like it or not, it's just so easy.
I do
It's
it all
cognitive.
the time too. Yeah, I go and put the lo-fi hip hop playlist on. It's so easy. But I think it's like cool if like you were to, in that little drop down menu, create your own little rainy day playlist of like all your favorites, or drop them in if you are in another playlist to like make your own little selection of jams. One I had on before was Claire de Lune.
Banger.
Classic, banger. I'm a big fan of Nick Drake. Simon and Garfunkel too. I don't mind them on like a rainy day.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of their music was written in the rain for some reason. Just that acoustic sort of storytelling, like Kathy's song and things like that. Nick Drake, obviously. I feel like the Smiths are a dangerous band to listen to in the rain. Like
They'll just make it even more rainy.
Yeah, if you're already
just bring
depressed.
the rain.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know. If you like the Smiths, like go ahead, but yeah, I feel like they could maybe make the mood even worse. But I love rainy day music, and I think that, people out there like enjoy it, whether you know it or not. We often are searching for that kind of like, how do we indulge in a feeling, and how do we,
That's a good way to put it. It's a good way.
Yeah, that's what I think it's like. It's like, well, it's already here. The rain's here. Like, we're inside. How can we just sort of like
set the mood?
Yeah, exactly. This music is kind of built to set moods. For all sorts of moods: happy, sad, love, romance. Like cooking dinner with friends.
Yeah.
Your favorite coffee playhouse.
Yeah.
Or coffee house. Your favorite coffee house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's one of the most popular playlists.
Cafe jams.
Spotify. Yeah. beach reggae. You know, when I'm at the beach, I want to listen to reggae and like roots music. Like, I'm probably not going to put on, you know, Nick Drake while I'm at the beach with the kids. Like, we want Bob Marley. We want something like nothing better than that.
You're very in the moment when you listen to music, right?
Yeah.
It's always...
It's to amplify the moment.
It's amplifying the moment. It's enhancing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So another thing, I guess, like about rainy days, there's that, what's that old saying? Like, I'm just going to save it for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually chatting with Bud this morning, Bud Rokeski, and he was, you know, asking about, we're talking about songwriting like we have, you know, many times before. But today he was sort of like, oh, you know, like, what's sort of the next step? I've sort of been doing, you know, doing one thing, and he kind of like has done a few songs that are maybe like outside of what was like regular to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thinking about kind of going back to what is like his wheelhouse, and was just looking for a bit of inspiration, a bit of one of those, you know, motivational talks, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my suggestions was like going in and kind of writing down a list of what I call like magic words or sayings or turns of phrase.
That's specific to this artist?
Like specific to you. You know, so this could be anyone who's like listening. It doesn't, like what Bud would write, what I would write, what you would write would probably be different things like concerning our life, you know, whatever we're thinking about at the time, right? So sometimes I think like, you know, if today we can't write songs or we can't produce for whatever reason that is, like we don't have the time, there's no, you know, maybe we're not like super inspired or something like that, but you know, we're not sort of hanging out with friends. You don't want to just like, oh, watch a movie or play games or whatever. Like I'd suggest like just opening up notes on your phone or, you know, writing it down, you know, ideas for that rainy day that you do have the whole day set aside to write some tunes. And they could be whatever.
I call it adding to the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adding to the bag. So like when you are like ready to write music or you have that time set aside, like you can go back to that list of you know, ideas, and they could be simple. They could be one word, you know, some of them could just be one word: love, you know, happy, you know, how many good songs like just contain those words. Or they could be like turns of phrases. Like I think one I suggested to him this morning was like, why don't you love me like I love you? Which again may be used. Like I'm sure there's a song about that, but
that's like the contrast thing we were talking about in the last episode.
Yeah.
You know, using the light, the dark, the in and the out of the creative side of it, and contrasting the same thing in the same sentence almost. Like yeah. That's cool.
So just having that, or looking around the room, you know, like what we can sort of see here, what you guys I guess can see there, like some crystals, and is that a Banksia?
I think so. Yes, it is.
You know, like writing down sort of things like the Banksia on the coffee table, you know, or a candle on the coffee table is probably sort of a nicer thing. And it's like, so then when you've got like a few of these things and they don't need to mean anything. You don't even know what they mean yet.
Banksia Crystal Fire. Cool band name.
Really cool. So, you know, if it is like, if your jam is like making psychedelic music, you can get all psyched out and like create whatever sort of tangents you're seeing with these things. Or if you're a literal songwriter as well, you could sort of look at it and go, oh, candle on the, candle on the coffee table, like it's lit. So lit candle on the coffee table. What does that mean? You know,
it could be a beautiful metaphor.
A beautiful metaphor. Like, is it like you're expecting somebody to come over? So you've lit this candle and it's like, you know, it smells nice. It looks nice. It feels nice. Or is the candle not lit and you're sort of going, oh, I wish somebody was coming over and I wish I could light this candle.
Did you light this candle for me?
Well, I did, of course. I always light the candle, and there's, what's that steamer thing over there, you know, a bit of lavender. Just, I like rooms to smell good.
Setting the mood, like the music.
It is, yeah. Good. Smell is like an important one for me. I used to burn a lot of incense, but my wife hates it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, for one, it just fills the house with smoke, and I think incense just lingers like in everything, whereas like candles and what are those oil burners, diffuser, yeah, tend to not be as obnoxious as like Nag Champa, which I would be burning for sure. But yeah, definitely like, you know, writing these things down, looking around the room, finding that inspiration. I feel like a lot of people are lacking it. Like, a lot of people talk to me about these things and like finding inspiration.
They struggle because it's almost they're expecting more from themselves and trying to reach too far out of the toolkit in a sense, right? I've met people a lot like that, and I'm like, just write about your own experience. What's around you? What's in your life right now? Like,
yeah, people try and get too big.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, what's a big subject that I can like tackle, and like what's some like massive thing that I've been thinking about? And you probably spend more time like trying to figure out what that is than like writing a song.
And then trying to make it fit when it is so big, whereas you could make such a small thing mean so much to many people, because like Banksia Crystal Fire, that's like far more relatable to people than like, I don't know, something else, you know.
Yeah, all us hippies out there probably think, oh, this is such a unique thing to have on a table, and like every hippie household has got that exact arrangement going on. Maybe not the exact shape of crystals, as I guess crystals are a bit unique, or pottery can be unique, but
you could get on Pinterest and type in Banksia Crystal Fire.
Yeah. Wicker coffee table situation. I don't know what kind of couch this is, but yeah, these are, people can relate, you know, like that's the thing. Like, they can almost certainly, I'd say like 80% of houses have a candle and a coffee table in them. Yeah. And they mean so many different things to so many different people, about bringing people together. Yeah, it could be a date, could just be friends hanging out. There's like so many ways that you can explore that thought and extrapolate on what these things mean and why we have them for writing songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't sort of go and be like, oh, I've got to write this massive like love song, or I don't know how many like amazing songs are even written from these giant ideas. I'd say like 99% are probably written from small ideas and expanded into a bigger idea or a bigger concept.
They expand naturally because it is open for interpretation then.
Yeah.
Like, they use these smaller little concepts to become explosive in everyone's mind.
Yeah.
You know? All right, let's talk about production. Like rainy day production, rainy day, you know, saving stuff for a later date, or like, you know, how much music have you got that's been unheard by people?
And most of it, 95% of it. A lot of percentages I'm throwing out today.
That's right.
But yeah, the rainy day production I've loved and have done it so much.
Yeah.
What would spark that normally for me would be like maybe a new plugin. Like, if I've sort of, you know, I don't use like a ton of plugins, but I guess when I started I did. Like, I'd love to like go and like see what's on sale, you know, and just be like, oh, it's $10, like, or it's $40 or whatever, you know, and it's like, let's grab it and muck around with it. So you grab your plugin, whatever that might be. It could be like compressor or delay or some sort of tape modulation or an effect. And then you're like, well, I want to put this to use and see what it does. So you just, whatever you want to grab, like a MIDI keyboard or a guitar, or piano, or just your voice, and you muck around with it. That's like the best thing you could ever do, because
it's like painting with new colors.
Yeah, it's a little thing to like add in your arsenal, kind of have in your back pocket for when, like, it could be years down the line where like you're making a song and they're like, oh, like, I wish I had this kind of delay on it, and you're like, whoa, actually I've experimented with this sort of, you know, trippy delay thing. So now we can kind of add it into a song. I often did it a lot with just the Logic plugins too, where you go into like their delay designer, I think it is.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Even their room designer or space designer.
Space designer reverb, yeah.
They're great plugins, man. So powerful, so much in one.
Yeah.
Like,
and the one in the delay one has like a pitch delay. So there's like, I don't know, there's probably like 10 or 20 just normal delays with all your different, you know, quarter, half, 16th, 32, all that sort of stuff, triplets, slapbacks, these standard delays. And then it has probably like 2 or 3 banks of like pitch shifted ones, and really trippy ones that are like pitch shifted and doing all sorts of weird mechanics. And I just scroll through them. And there's one of Matt's songs called Rainbow Valley, which you'll actually hear some of those like pitch shifted parts of his vocals are in it. And that's just from that delay designer.
Sick.
Yeah. It was probably more ambitious when we started. There was like a lot of it. And I don't know, if anyone was listening to it, you'd probably think, oh, that's like, they've like pitch shifted bits of vocals and like put them in place, but it's not the case.
It's just one plug-in doing all the work.
One plug-in.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of just gone and automated like out what we don't want and just left what we did like.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're totally random, pitch shifted, trippy, really long delays, like words all kind of, I don't know when they're like triggering. You just sort of let it do its thing. Yeah. But yeah, you just scroll through until you're like, oh, that's the one that like works the best.
Creates a feeling or a color and roll with it.
But I doubt I would have chosen that if I hadn't had the Rainy Day to muck around with it.
Exactly.
Because it would have been a bit like, oh, this is a pitch shifted delay for a Corby song.
I've got so many plugins waiting to be used.
Yeah.
I just did like a full sale, like haul of UAD recently.
Oh, and
man, I got the Moog, I got like all these synths to play with and their Rhodes and cabinet and pedal board set up and can't wait.
Yeah. But you gotta experiment with them.
100%.
You know how they sound. Like, just because I think it's not muscle memory.
No.
Is there a sound memory? I don't even know what it's called, but
it is a bit of a game of memory sometimes. Like,
you kind of click, right? Like,
you're like, oh yeah, I could go down that direction. And you reach for it basically.
I guess that's a tool too of like a producer where you might have an artist who's like bad at explaining themselves. I want it to sound like warm. Yeah. Well, what does warm mean to you?
Shitloads of tape.
like it could mean so many different things to different people. What the idea of warm means, or what the idea of bright means. Like what bright means to us might not be the same to them. They might be thinking like loud, not bright.
In saying that, like, and speaking of Rainy Day, kind of art waiting to be exposed. I did a remix for an artist named Latasha, and she had this track she put out on her album, and she's like, can you like remake me an electronic beat, and here's my acapella. So I built like a whole new beat for her, and she's like, next. I reckon I did 4 different versions of this track for her, and now I've got like 4, like I went hard, like I put a lot into these sounds, and not really attach myself to the outcome, because she's definitely picked one of them, and I've got 3 amazing tracks waiting to be used and waiting to be put out, So
they can just sit there for a rainy day.
They can sit there for a rainy day. And I'm like waiting, because there's a couple artists here on the coast that same thing. I'm like, they're going to send me some references, and I'll be like, I said to them, send me some references and I'll see what's in my bag, basically. And they're probably going to get some of these remixes that I did, and I'll just take her vocals out, and
Yeah, exactly.
It's so handy to be able to
100%.
Go back like that, and
100%. Yeah, I think there's no time wasted really. It's like, it's just up to you how you interpret how you're spending that time and how you're using it the next time that you kind of come around to it. Another like maybe obvious or not so obvious one, which is potential, I guess, for rainy days, but I use this technique. You might have used this a lot too. Matt certainly uses it a lot in his music, with like his other producers that he uses as well. It's not just with me, but recording the rain.
Yep.
Or like recording the birds. Getting some field recordings to kind of put in music. And again too, if it's like, of course, you can go online and find samples of rain. But it's so much more special, I think, if you've just like got a nice long mic lead and gone outside and recorded outside, wherever you are. Because then every time you listen to it, you'll be like, that was like outside the Yamanui studios, and like there's certain drips that might happen because of the design
exactly right
of the house or whatever it is. So I'd say like having a few of those in your pocket for a rainy day, like just go outside and get some field recordings.
There's one sample I've used of My Place, basically that, and it's called 6 a.m. Nature, and it was for Ziggy's album. We just needed a sample of birds in paradise, basically. So I just like set up a stereo pair outside my window, woke up, set my alarm at 6 a.m. My girlfriend at the time wasn't too stoked with that, but set up the recording, and it just like captured like half an hour, and we've used that sample in so many different applications.
Exactly.
It just, like you said, it's that special kind of atmosphere that you just know it's so true to you. And
I know Matt did it with a song called Manies. So I believe that song was kind of written about the floods that happened down in Northern Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris, who's producing that, was, lived nearby, and I'm pretty sure he just took a little setup and went and recorded the road. So you can kind of hear like a car, because like the idea of Manies.
Yeah.
I know in Townsville, we called them tough laps.
Tough laps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like Southerners call them Manies.
Yeah.
Where you're basically doing like,
Here's a hack though, for anyone that doesn't have location recording gear. Your iPhone is a really great microphone.
100%.
It will record stereo if you film it. So I tell a lot of artists that are like on the road so much, and they want to incorporate a lot of that kind of travel sound into their work. Jesse Higgins, Tom Cardy, Ziggy Alberts, Darcy Kate, they all wanted to use samples like this. I think Darcy used her indicator in her car. She just recorded that, and we put that in the track because it was just like in rhythm with the tune, because she'd like done it once while she was driving, listening to the demo.
Yeah.
And then Tom recording the airport while he was sitting there waiting to travel to California. Ziggy with the nature sounds, or Ziggy doing his own demos, like I was talking about on the other podcast. He released that whole album basically of demos, and then Jesse Higgins climbed a mountain in Tassie and just did this big video of the wind and everything up there, and we ended up incorporating that into the start of one of his songs. And because it was video, like it's stereo straight away.
And so you just import it,
and it's far better quality than a voice memo. The voice memos are generally mono, and they're always EQ'd in a way that just isolates your voice more.
Because they're made for voice memos.
Exactly. It makes sense, right? And then instead, you just film. And then we can always separate it. Hot tip.
I think those things are, whether or not like the audience is like aware of these things, I don't know, but I think it definitely makes it more special for the artist, and like whenever you're listening back to your own music, to know that it's kind of like, we actually did this, or it's a cool story. It's a cool story to talk about on social media. I know so many artists they just hate social media, and what am I going to talk about? No one wants to hear what I'm doing. Well, like, I'm sure people would be interested in that. People are interested in all the weird sides of every job. That's a weird side to this job, is like, I climbed a mountain and recorded the wind in the mountain in Tasmania.
It's quite poetic when you really put it down to 100%. That, right?
That's what I mean. So it's like there's all these excuses as to not do it. This is why you do it. And you just keep it for a rainy day. You don't know if you're going to need it right away, but
pays to get selfies.
That's right. Just film as much as you can and keep it there locked away. But I don't know, I feel like people get stuck a bit in songwriting and production, in these sort of things, and it's good to like keep a bank of cool stuff for that rainy day when it comes around. Again, talking metaphorically now, not necessarily it's actually raining outside. But it's like,
kind of wish it was. Then we could have the samples in this podcast.
We could have had this open and had all the rain coming down. But no, the sun has actually come out today, which is nice. Finally. But like building up a repertoire of samples, of songs, of ideas that you just keep in your back pocket. pay off dividends. You know, you just never know. I'm constantly scrolling through sort of my notes to find like little bits of lyrics that I might have written, little ideas. We often forget to write them down. So if this podcast like helps people just kind of remember, you know,
where stuff is.
Yeah, where it is. Like have a look around your space, like go for a drive, like think about who your friends are. You could have a whole list of like just like friendship ones. So it's like, oh, here's like a list of all my closest friends' names, and then like write how you feel about them, like underneath, or how they make you feel, or how like the relationship is, like what that relationship means to you, your family, acquaintances, and then just like all the kind of random life stuff that we do on our own, like sitting on a train. I was on a train the other day for the first time.
For the first time?
No, for the first time in a long time. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I had to go to Brisbane, and my wife was driving down the day after, and so I was like, well, there's no point taking two cars. I'll drive us back after the gig. And I went out to Nambour, and there was no trains, so I had to get a bus. But it was actually awesome. I like put my headphones in. It's kind of this windy little road.
Yeah.
Like that hits every little train station on the way to Caboolture.
Right. So the bus picked you up from the train station. Yeah. That's the alternative now.
Well, it was just that day. Right, the train lines were down.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like train lines are down from here to here, so I get the bus to Caboolture. Yeah. Bus ride was beautiful. Like it's just that beautiful countryside, you know, trip down to Caboolture, and then it was a wild Caboolture ride with the people on the train. It was all sorts of crazy conversations with all these people that seemed to know each other, and definitely affected by some kind of drugs or alcohol.
That's when you get the video out. You just record the ceiling. Yeah. You film the ceiling, but you record the atmosphere. Right?
There was a lot of atmosphere, a lot of wild conversations. But yeah, a big journey from here to Brisbane to go and see some buddies. Who ended up picking me up in Northgate, because I would have had to get off at Northgate and then back onto a bus. It would have been like another 45 minutes.
Right.
But I don't know. I used to get public transport all the time when I lived in Brisbane, and loved it because you could just slap on your headphones, look around at people, look at people, imagine their lives. You know, I always think that's such a great one too. When you see somebody and you're like, oh, like, what are their clothes? Tell me about them. Like, is what kind of lifestyle they're living? Where are they going to next? There was actually an interesting one on the bus. I don't know if this is like appropriate to like necessarily talk about, but it was a mother and a son who like probably they just looked a bit down on their luck. I don't know how old she was. She probably was like mid-30s, like maybe similar age to me. Kind of coolly dressed, like had this kind of like shaved head, but like bleached and like semi sort of goth. And then the son was there, but like had like dolls and like all this kind of stuff with him. I'd say he's about 10 years old or something. And like sat behind, and he's like playing with his dolls on the bus, and she's there with like the shopping. I guess they gone to Nambour. They probably live like I think they got off at like Mumbai or something. And I was like, oh, what an interesting thing. Like that their little journey is like going to Nambour, and that's sort of like the Big Smoke. Or I guess the closest shopping centre. Like it looked like they got their groceries and things they needed for the week. But such a unique little duo, you know, and it's like, love to know like what they do and like why they're living.
See, that would make a good piece of art or a good song, like talking about these two characters.
Yeah.
You know, going through their life in a completely different way to yours, you know. It's
100%. And I could be completely wrong in just judging them, you know, but not judging them and just imagining.
Yeah.
Imagining like, based on like how they're dressed and what they're doing, like what are they up to? And you extrapolate on that thought. You know, for me, like I grew up with a single mother and like would do these things as well. Like it was, you know, I don't know if like she's necessarily single or if it was just their day. Like, I don't know what the situation was, but yeah, you can draw so much from that. And I'm sure so many songs have been made from artists sort of just observing people on the street that seem interesting. And then you know, it affects you enough to go and write a song about it. Yeah. So
it'd be nice to find an example. I know there's examples of that kind of thing out there, but
the one that, which, you know, is not coming to mind, but what would you do if your son was there?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of alone. Like, I don't know if that's like a true story or not, or if they're just like talking about street people.
Yeah. The struggles of street life.
Yeah.
And single parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Waking up.
Yeah.
Drug addict of a father.
100%. Yeah, in and out of prison, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that was like the train trip was like, there was like this, I don't know, there's about 6 people around me and they all seem to be sitting at different chairs.
Yeah.
But all talking. And I'm kind of somehow in the middle of them.
You're like...
I was like, all right. And I sort of pretend to have my headphones in, but they were quite loud and yelling out. And this lady behind me was like, oh, that's like Shanice. I was in prison with her. Oh, she's looking real good now. She's looking good. Yeah, no, I was definitely in prison with her. And I was like, whoa, like, what? You guys are on this whole other journey. And they were, definitely kind of, there was like 2 teenagers with them and some older ladies, like just not afraid to be yelling and talking. Not yelling. It wasn't like aggressive or anything. But it was like just like loud chatter.
Yeah.
And
unapologetic.
Well, yeah, because I always imagine like, what if I was just like striking and said, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, can I come and like hang out? Like, you're on your way to Castledine. Is this like a party or what's going on? Like, there's like 6 of you.
Yeah, just
like,
wear a different hat for the day. Just
imagine just cruising along and just like existing with those people for an afternoon, and like what they get up to, like in and out of prison, and like could be interesting. I'm not bold enough to do that. Plus, I was looking forward to hanging out with some friends. But anyway, it's those things, it's those situations in life that I think, you could definitely extrapolate on. And
pull some inspo from.
Yeah, exactly. Save it for a rainy day.
Save it for a rainy day.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll leave that one there.
Tune in next week for another episode of Rainbows on Wax.
Thanks, guys.
Rainbows.